You're listening to Kayak Flyer with your host, Sean. Tonight, we're brought to you by Tennessee Trailers, OutdoorAdventureTrailers.com. Simply the best way to get your kayak to and from the water. Bajuco Flats Fly Co. Simply the best custom-made fly rods on the market, always built to order just the way you want it. Find Bajuco Flats Fly Co. on Instagram and Facebook. StoneflyNets.com, made 100% in the great state of Arkansas with your choice of woods or burls. Stonefly Nets can even be customized for that favorite fisher person in your life. Check out StoneflyNets.com for details. CutthroatFurledLeaders.com, the only leaders that I fish with. Cutthroat Furled Leaders are excellent for saltwater, freshwater, trout, bass, you name it, you can catch it with a Cutthroat Furled Leader. Head to CutthroatFurledLeaders.com, promo code KAYAK to save 15%. Ludwig Outdoors. I thought you were going to be a lot older.
Did you?
I mean, I'm not going to lie.
How old do you think I am?
I thought you were going to be, I think you're like 32.
Oh, man, you're good. Yeah, 32?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm an old bastard. And we try not to cuss on the show, but I guess that one just slipped because I'm end of the show beers and we're starting the show. You have a killer Instagram page and you are tying some absolute killer flies. Before we get going, I just want to mention that Adam couldn't be here tonight because Adam's computer is not the best. And so we're going to have a GoFundMe page for Adam's computer for anybody that listens to the show. But Kyle, your Instagram is off the hook. How did you start into that?
Well, I started tying flies 2.5 years ago. So not that long ago, really. And actually, a cousin of mine got me into it, and I just kind of just started tying every day. And one day, I just decided to start an Instagram, and just kept posting.
Yeah, but you don't look like a guy who started 2 years ago. I mean, now I'm older. I'm I will say I will admit to mid 40s, you know. My eyes aren't what they used to be, but I never did like tying trout flies. I don't like tying anything under a size 10. I've migrated under a size 12 and I've been tying a size 14. But you're tying incredible dries. What is, for somebody like me that is a streamer guy, a streamer fisherman, what does it take to sit there and tie on those little flies?
Patience. uh, yeah, and a lot of practice. I mean, I got a ton of scrap flies, so um, I've gone through so many flies, it's not even funny. But yeah, just practice and just kind of keep at it. Uh,
You know, that's the thing about streamer guys. We don't have any waste
yeah,
flies.
there's too much material.
They're just big, they're flashy, they've got everything hanging off of them. Something's going to hit them. And I follow you on Instagram and I followed you for quite a while. And then we found out that we live relatively close to one
Yeah,
another, which was a huge shock. You know, that was a huge shock. But we have, you know, we fish the same areas.
yeah, same. Yeah, right here in Missouri.
Yeah, and it's so incredible, but Missouri is, and I think it's an underrated trout area, and you tie a lot of flies for trout. Where do you like to fish at? Where all have you fished at in Missouri for trout?
For like Montauk State Park. I usually fish outside of the park though when we go.
Do you like Baptist Hole or what do
Yeah,
you
up
like?
that way, and then
Tanvat, Tanvat or
Tan-
Baptist? Which I mean, those are two hotly contested
both.
areas.
it the whole place. I'll go everywhere, and then a lot
Yeah,
of the
I
smaller
like to
places.
go down to Tanvat. Yeah, I like to go to Tanvat and walk up. and I like to go to Baptist and walk down.
Yeah. Yeah, those seem to be the two real popular areas.
Yeah. And it's just there's something about this summer we're gonna float and do an overnight. And I'm taking my drone and we're gonna shoot the old hospital from the drone.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And I think that'll be amazing.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
And then another thing one of my friends and I are doing, have you heard of this blue ribbon challenge they have in Missouri?
Yeah, I have. Eh,
And where are you at on
Oh,
that?
I haven't started it this year. I think it started last year, right? 2020 is when they started that?
Yeah, and it started and I don't think it has to be done in a single year.
Okay. Well, I've
The
caught
what
trout
the
and well, last year I didn't do a whole lot of trout fishing, just well, it's 2020. Uh,
Yeah.
um, but but yeah, I've caught trout in probably not very many of them, honestly, maybe 3.
Yeah. We're taking my drone and we've got a bunch of action cameras and we're gonna go and fish the blue ribbon and we're gonna try for a silver this year.
Okay, that's doable.
And then hopefully finish up the gold next year. But I don't think people understand that we've got 9 rivers with trout in them up here,
Yeah, there's quite a
in
few.
southern Missouri.
Right, there's more spots than people think. They don't realize it. There are a lot of small ones.
Yeah,
Blue Springs Creek is pretty tiny.
yeah. And a lot of those trout, once they've been and as well as I do, they're all pellet pigs to start with.
Right.
But once they've been out of the park, they get kind of spooky.
Yeah, yes they do. Yep. Especially when you start walking down, or Little Piney Creek is another blue ribbon area, and yeah, they're very spooky in there.
What has been your sort of I mean, you tie beautiful flies. I can't even begin to imagine what goes into that. And if anybody doesn't follow you, it's Ludwig Outdoors on Instagram. Your flies are just beautiful. And we can get into the camera that you take photos of with them later because it's not a cell phone. I can tell you
No,
that.
it is
Um,
actually.
it
Yeah, it's my
is.
phone. Yeah, I surprise everybody with
You
that. It's
have
it's my iPhone. Yeah.
those are beautiful photos. Absolutely beautiful. And your dry flies are absolutely amazing.
Well,
And we talked a little bit before the show about where you get your stuff, but can you tell me like one of your favorite flies to tie and the ingredients on it?
my favorite fly to tie is probably a hopper pattern. The GFA hopper. Um, I like fishing it for really bass, actually, bass and bluegill. Um, but I mean trout eat it too. But that I'd say that's probably one of my favorite flies to tie, just because it's fairly quick. Considering what it looks like, it may look like it takes a little time, but it's a little quicker than it looks, and it's really foam.
Well,
Deer hair or elk hair, any leg material of your choice, and an underbody of your choice. So maybe 4 or 5 materials.
let's get together because I know we talked about that before the show, but let's get together and I will either get you a couple of cutters from River Road Creations or I will bring you a bunch of cutters, a bunch of cuts from River Road Creations and see how your hopper game is with
Yeah,
those.
I just hand cut everything right now. I don't have any cutters.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I can't see enough to hand cut anything, so I use River Road
Well, that would save me a
Creations.
lot of time.
Oh, it's and those are great guys up there, and they're really running into a problem with COVID because I don't know how your Instagram has done, but since COVID, my Instagram, my podcast, Kayak Flyer podcast, of course, you're listening to it. You can find us on Instagram, Kayak Flyer. We've exploded just because people are around. And I know you and I both like Nick Dooley with Dooley's Fly Shop. So they put 15% with promo code Kayak. But you get a lot of stuff from him too, and he's really taken
Oh yeah,
off.
Nick's awesome. I get pretty much 90% of my stuff from Nick. I will go to my local shop, here and there to support them as well. But yeah, Nick's awesome.
Yeah, rub it in my face. You have a local shop up there 100 miles away from
Well, it's
me.
still a little far drive from my house, but from work it's a little closer.
Yeah. And that's the thing is as we see fly fishing grow, and I think we really have this year when you talk to guys about vices and you talk to the guys that are out there selling stuff. What's going to happen? Is the bottom going to fall out of this when people go back to life, quote unquote, normal? Or do you think we're going to keep a lot of these guys here with us?
I think a lot of them will stick around, like tying. Right now, obviously, like you just said, last year with COVID, everybody's stuck inside. Um, so a lot of more people are venturing out and learning new things. And tying's one of those with fishermen. I think we would hang on to a lot of them. But some of them will drop off, of course. But if once you kind of get in the tying, it's hard to leave.
That brings me to an interesting question. Would you rather tie or fish?
Oh, I'd rather fish than tie, but I tie more than I fish, just because just because I have more time. I'm at home, more than I am on the river,
No.
or have time. I have more time
You
here to
know,
tie than I have to go drive to the river.
in my winters, I brew beer and I tie.
Okay,
And in my summers, I
yeah,
fish
that makes the most sense.
because the water, yeah, well, the water's too hot to brew beer, and I don't want to sit inside during the summer. But I find that I can fill up 300 flies. I can make 300 flies in a month and a half
Yeah,
because I just sit down and crank stuff out. Are you like that where you just sit down and crank for relaxation?
yeah. A lot of times, especially in the winter. Well, we're still in winter right now, and yeah, I'll sit down there and I'll just tie, a dozen or two, and then go to sleep. But sometimes I'll have orders to
Yeah.
fill. But
I mean, but isn't, I mean, tying flies is a very, I don't want to say it's relaxing because it's anything but relaxing. But if you're tying, and I think I know how you tie, and correct me if I'm wrong, you probably sit down and crank out a dozen of one type at a time.
a lot of times, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you get into that mode, there is something relaxing about it.
Yeah, you just kinda get in a rhythm, and if you have all the materials already ready, you just kinda fall into a rhythm, a pattern, and before you know it, you got a dozen of them done,
Yeah.
you know?
And so you're selling flies as well as just tying them, right?
Yeah, here and there, I don't sell a whole lot of them, but, yeah, I will sell some, and, I do tie for Eclipse Fly Company. Um, he's on Instagram as well.
I don't I don't know them. Can you tell me a little bit about them?
Yeah, they sell flies, and assortment boxes online. EclipseFlyco.com. Um, Great company. I got a couple patterns.
How did you get hooked up with that?
He reached out to me actually. Um, yeah,
Oh, well, that's
yeah, he
nice.
reached out to me one day last year, and then yeah, I started tying a couple patterns for his shop, and still doing that now.
Well, that's not a bad way to go if you can get it. I know there's when you get online, there's always guys asking about selling flies or how to become a professional fly tyer, and it's not easy. And I think that's a testament to your ability. If nobody's followed your Instagram, that's why they should follow it
Yeah.
'Cause you put together some really good
Well,
flies.
thanks. Yeah, put in a lot of hard work with it. But if you go
Yeah,
back all the way through my Instagram to the beginning, they weren't all that great. But and I still can't tie every pattern. I'm still learning. So
yeah. Well, your worst trout fly is still better than my best trout fly. We have challenges every once in a while on here. I may have to throw a challenge out for a streamer for you and
all
Adam,
right, I'll be down for that.
and, we may have to do that. I'll have to send you guys the stuff and do a challenge because we've had 4 challenges and Adam has won every one of them.
Oh wow. So he's got to be dethroned.
Yeah, that really makes it makes me feel horrible. I'm like, "Dude, it's my podcast and you're the co-host." And of course he couldn't be here tonight, but I'm like and he keeps winning these challenges and he's like, "Bring it on, bring it I need somebody to beat him, and I know you
I'll
can."
try.
So, when you're out fishing, um, and we don't normally talk a lot about this, but when you're out fishing, what and let's just say Montauk because we both of us know that. We could talk Spring River if we wanted to go down there or wherever you want to. But just for a trout fly, I guess it would be a lot of guys call it like a searcher pattern. What dry fly that you tie do you like to use for that?
Um, Honestly, I don't fish a ton of dry flies. To be honest, I usually
You tie some really nice
I do
ones.
tie them up and I will fish them, but I honestly mostly fish like nymphs, like Euro nymph style or tightline nymphing.
Okay, well
Um,
then which one would you
uh,
use? And do you use a bobber?
no, usually I don't. I have, but a lot of times I don't. I think it keeps me paying attention more if I don't. But
Yeah.
I usually start with a caddis larva.
Okay. And how do you tie that?
Well, I tie all kinds of different variations of it, but I like tying green.
Well, what's your most productive?
It would be like a green, like a stretch tubing, like a chartreuse stretch tubing
Mhm.
that's wrapped around the hook, but I feed chartreuse wire through the tubing first, and then I stretch it around. Um, so that's basically the body of the fly, and then I put a little black dubbing for the head, and then I use a black bead. So there's actually I think
What kind are you
it's
using?
one of my I just actually posted some on Instagram with those. I think it's like the second most recent photo I put on there.
Are you using a tungsten bead?
Yeah, I usually use tungsten. I used to use brass all the
You know,
time, but then my cousin we went down to Little Piney one time and he'd catch way more fish than I would, and I was using brass beads and he was using tungsten, and I switched it up and it was even playing field from there. So it makes a big difference.
I s- yeah, I saw a deal the other day where basically tungsten weighs twice as much as brass.
I can believe it. I don't know how true that is, but I can believe it. It definitely gets down faster.
Yeah. I bought some brass beads the other day and then I took some 010 and depending on the hook size, 020, and then wrapped the hook with that and then shoved it up underneath the bead
Hmm.
because after I watched a thing about how much more tungsten weighed, because I mean, when you hold it in your hand, you can't tell,
No, yeah.
you know. And so I started just wrapping the crap out of those and shoving them up in there, you know. And if you're making if like you say you're making a pheasant tail, right? You want that body build up around there, so you're gonna wrap it with wire or with your lead wrap or your lead free wrap, depending on your state.
Right.
And then you're gonna use that to put your legs on and whatnot. Butt it up against it, and that way it's easier to tie. But some of these flies for trout, you're looking at a tungsten head and just thread and wire and a little bit of dubbing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's and thread and I'll ask you what your favorite thread is. I guess I'll also go ahead and ask you, what is your favorite thread for a trout fly?
I use Simplify Nano Silk mostly now, but I do like UTC 70 a denier as
Yeah.
well. But I like the stronger thread because I used to break my thread all the time.
I know. Yeah. I broke a lot of my thread until I got a couple of right bobbins. And then Nick Dooley at Dooley's Fly Fishing, say 15% promo code kayak. Um, turned me onto that nano silk, but you can't use the nano silk with a ceramic bobbin.
Yeah, I don't. I use mine with.
It'll cut the
I
bobbin.
don't know. Yeah, I don't use mine with my ceramic bobbin, but I use it with the loon um, ergo bobbin,
Yeah.
and I think it's a stainless
Hmm.
steel tube. I'm pretty sure it's
It
steel,
is.
and it works. That works fine.
Yeah, it's stainless steel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the funny thing is I was cutting. I had a pair of scissors and I was cutting that nano silk,
Yeah.
and my scissors wouldn't cut it anymore. But then when I put on a denier, I was cutting it just fine.
Yeah. You can't really cut it with. I mean, you have to almost like just slide your scissors through it instead of like cutting it. I use a
Yeah.
razor blade to cut mine because
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna have to do because and I don't I mean, is that nano silk actually silk? I don't know what it is. It just
it's
it
it's gel
it
spun. I don't even know what they call it, to be honest with you. I just use it. But,
yeah,
it is very strong. I don't think it's actually silk, because they do make silk threads, um, but, yeah, I mean, it's extremely strong, whatever it's actually made out of. Um,
it's strong as all get out. And I've used the red and my whip finisher, my loon whip finisher is stained red.
yeah, yeah, it'll some of the color does come out of it a little bit, but,
Yeah.
but if you put a little head cement on the end of it, you'll be fine. Yeah. But, yeah, it will come out
Yeah,
of it
it's just
off of it.
yeah, it's a wild thing to use because you wouldn't think anything that thin would be that strong.
Yeah, the only time I ever broke it, even 12 aught, is when it nicked the tip of my hook. I broke
Mm.
it a couple times and it just hit the tip of my hook and it snapped it. So
Well, I hate to tell you, that's an amateur
yeah,
move.
it's happened a few times, but usually it happens at the worst possible time.
I I have never caught the tip of my hook in my thread.
See your nose growing.
I know. Yeah, it's funny because I mean some of those hooks are a big deal.
Yeah,
Hooks are a really big deal. As some of them you can nick and then your thread is fine, and some of them are just
yeah, it's over.
your
Yep,
toast.
it's.
W- What hooks do you like?
I primarily tie on fire hole sticks. Um, That's pretty much all of the hooks I tie on right now. But I will tie on fully mill as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I can't tie on Firestone until they start to sponsor the show because I can't afford them.
Oh, fire hole, yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah, yeah. When Firehole sponsors a show, I can tie on them because they're proud of their
yeah,
hooks.
and I mean they're good hooks. I mean you can't really deny it. They're sharp. I've never had really an issue with them. I mean I've fished and
No, I
I've broke my line before the hook bent out. Getting snagged.
oh yeah, I have too. I mean, they're great hooks. Timco is a good hook.
Yeah, actually those are the hooks I started
Um,
tying on. Um, and then I don't know. I don't even know how I got into fire hole hooks. I think I just It was real trendy a couple years ago when I started, and I just bought some and kind
yeah,
of went from there. Was kind of stuck with one brand, but
and I don't know. I guess it's Gamakatsu, the B10S Stinger hook
yeah, I do use those
in
for
one
some
aught
bass.
is what I tie. Yeah,
Yep. Yeah, I will use those for some
that's
bass
what
flies.
I tie my yeah, I tie all my bass flies on those. And it's funny how there's, a dozen different hook companies. Fly Tires Dungeon just came out with a new hook. And they come out with that goes from 1/0 to 6/0.
Oh wow.
And I've tied a bunch of flies on those, and they're amazing. They don't have the torque or the flex that the Gamakatsu has. They're a thicker hook, but for bass or predatory fish, that's what you want.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. And actually, I mean, I honestly bass fish more than I trout fish, believe it or not. I tie a lot of trout
Oh yeah,
flies, but I actually live
yeah.
on a lake, so I fish in the summer almost every day. Um, but yeah, I have more access to bass and bluegill, but I definitely love going out trout fishing.
How's your game changer? Have you done any game
Actually,
changers?
yeah, I just bought material for that, and I just tied my first one probably a week ago. Um, it's I can grab it real quick if you want to look at it.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead. For those of you that are listening on audio, we're gonna be putting this on YouTube so you can look at it.
yeah, it's not the prettiest because it's my first one, but here's the. I gotta still gotta trim it a little bit, but
Yeah.
yeah, it'll work.
Now, what did you use? What body material did you use for that?
That's the Blaine Chocolate's Game Changer chenille. It's actually made for Game
Okay.
Changers, and they were out of a lot of the good colors at Feathercraft, but I got black and another like an off white color.
Have you tried the feather game changer?
I have not tried that one yet, but
Well, when we go fishing, I'll bring you a pheasant. You can try it.
all right. I do want to try one. I just haven't had time to sit down and tackle it yet.
Yeah. If I'm sober whenever I edit this, I'll put a picture of one in. I like the feather game changers because I don't like to trim.
Yeah,
I don't like to take the scissors and cut the stuff.
yeah, that makes a big mess.
And then yeah, and then what is it? The beast fly that they tie. That's like a game changer, that's hollow tied.
Yeah, I haven't tried that,
And
but
I use a
I've seen them.
yeah, I'm tying one of those this week. I'm gonna try and have a new video up this week of one of those, and I'm gonna use the Fly Tires Dungeon new big game fish hair for that, and I think it'll look pretty good. But that's like a pike fly.
Yeah,
It's huge.
yeah, that's a big fly. Yeah, I have not tied those, but I've seen them and they're massive. Yeah,
Yeah, and I've tied regular game changers like that, and they're fluffy.
yeah,
You know, and hollow tying is something that beginner guys don't know how to do, but it's really easy, and it's something a lot of beginner fly tires should learn how to tie.
yeah,
I mean, you lay it down the opposite way you want it, you lock it in, you roll it over, and you lock it back. And I think there are a lot of new guys to fly tying, and some of these tricks that we have, it would only be right if we shared them with those guys. And I know you've got a lot of tricks in your back pocket for putting down some of these flies. What's one of your favorite looks really great fly, but really easy to tie fly for a
for a
beginner?
beginner. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of like I said earlier, like the GFA hopper. It looks really good as a hopper pattern, and it's actually fairly easy to tie. If you go to like a nymph pattern, that the stretch tubing with the caddis larva, and that stuff looks really good on a hook.
Hmm.
And it doesn't take much effort to wrap it around. You just got to make sure it's tight. Um, and it looks really killer on the hook. Um, and so if you can get that wrapped right, it's super easy for a beginner to just start playing with one material, and it looks great, you know. But foam is another cool material I really like using for top water fishing instead of all hair,
Yeah.
and hackle.
Yeah. I made a disco shrimp a couple of years ago when we went down to Louisiana, and that was a killer fly.
Was it?
And I had to go to Hobby Lobby and get these little cups that were plated like a disco ball,
Nice.
and they make a popping sound and they reflect water. And you would never think that it would catch fish as ugly as that fly
Right.
is,
Hey.
but you're throwing them at night. You
Yeah.
know, that's the it's not a daylight time fly, and I think that's kind of interesting that we have night flies and daylight flies. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I do want to do more night fishing, like with mice and stuff. I want to try that out.
Oh, have you been to Cotter?
No, I haven't.
Cotter is evidently everybody on the podcast is going to moan when I say this. Cotter is the new Montana.
Really?
A 30-inch browns on a mouse pattern at night is not
Oh,
uncommon.
wow. Where's this at?
It's northwest Arkansas.
Oh, okay.
So you go to Branson and you go like an hour
Okay,
south.
yeah, that's not that far.
No, it's not far at all. It's 6 hours door to door from me. So you would go down 44 and save an hour.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be bad at all for you. But Ben Woodard is a friend of the show. Well, he's a friend of mine. He's never been on the show. Friend of mine. He's got a guide service, but the problem with Cotter is they don't have enough guides.
Oh, really?
They have more fishermen than they have guides.
Hmm.
And one of the friends of the show is thinking about going down there and starting a guide service because he guides in Alaska. But man, it is a killer place to go. And then you've got the Buffalo River like 20 miles away. And if you want to catch gar and smallmouth, that's the place to go.
Nice. Yeah, I just
Take your six weight. Yeah, take your 6 weight for smallies and your 10 weight for gar.
yeah, I actually caught a gar on my 6 weight last summer. Uh, that was fun.
How did that turn out?
Well, yeah, that was one of my goals last summer was to catch I wanted to catch a carp and a gar on my fly rod, and I couldn't get the carp, but I did get a gar, and I was all by myself, and that was fun pulling them in, to say the least.
How big was it?
He's probably uh, there's a picture on him on my one of my. I got two Instagram pages. One of them I don't really use anymore, but I think it's on that one of the fish. But it's probably like 2.5, 3 feet long. So,
Yeah,
but it was fun. I mean,
that's you're getting up there.
I thought it was a good smallmouth, but it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, that's getting up there on the top end of that rod for that. You know, when they get much bigger, you've got to have a lot heavier
Well,
rod.
he pulled some line out now, and I let him go for a minute, but yeah, I ended up getting him in, but I didn't know it was a gar at first, and then you can kind of when you're fighting them, you can figure it out. But yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah. Gar, I think, and I know carp are the next big game fish, or trash fish that will be game fish.
Hmm.
I think gar are going to overtake them in the next 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, I can see
I think everybody's going to be gar fishing.
it's fun. It it's different. It's a different type of fishing. I mean, honestly,
Yeah, and you,
it's any streamer. I mean, if you're fishing for bass in the river, you could catch a gar, by accident. Um, but the fight is different. The fight's different.
yeah, and I don't know about you, but I've got one rod rigged up for gar that I take out,
Yeah.
and it's fibers that are looped with no hook. So it's like
Okay.
a inch long. Yeah, it's like an inch long articulation.
Yeah. You use
Uh,
like nylon.
and then it's yeah. Well, I'm using the Congo
Okay.
hair and looping it across, and I'm using it in white and putting a red head on it.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, I have a fly
And
just
the
like that.
gar,
I just tied it with I took like this nylon rope and I unraveled it and brushed it out and
mhm,
yeah, I just tied it onto a hook. But I caught mine on it was
yeah.
just a rubber legged. It looks like a crawfish. Yeah.
Well, last time I was down at the Buffalo, there was I mean we would hit patches of gar. So every 200, 400 yards you'd hit a patch of gar. And one of them was swimming around, and if that smallmouth tail hanging out of his mouth was any indication, it was an 18 incher,
Oh wow.
you know. And you got packs of like 20, 30 gar in a spot. And it's like lay one fly rod down, throw the other fly rod
Right.
out, you know. And I know a lot of guys bow fish for them. A lot of guys bow fish for carp and buffalo and drum. But I'm telling you, some of these you can catch on a fly rod, and that's a good time. Now trying to get them off the fibers out of their teeth is a whole nother
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah. Take a glove with you. You know. Yeah.
Yeah,
Unhooking them is the hard too.
one of those steel. Yeah, because you can't really hook them in the mouth because of how solid they
Yeah.
are.
It's just like bone. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't set a hook, so you want to get them in that fibery stuff, and then you've got to get them in. And if you pick them up, the scales are going to slice your hands up.
Yeah. You get beat up.
You
You
know,
get beat up catching gar.
yeah. And now, if a gar, and I don't mind anybody keeping a fish that is legal, but if you catch a gar over 3.5 foot long, you just take like you're doing a deer, and you take that back strap
Yeah.
out, and that is some good
I've
eating.
never had it. I've heard it was good, but I've never eaten it.
Yeah. They have a backstrap muscle that is you just get rid of the whole thing except for that backstrap muscle, and it is just incredible.
Huh.
So, just something to keep in the back of your mind next time you accidentally catch one.
Yeah.
But they have to be big. They can't be
Well,
small. They
yeah.
have to be a has to be a big 3.5 to 4 foot gar.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not much meat to the little ones. They're just like sticks, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And, chain pickerel. That's another fish that's fun to catch,
Yeah, I've never caught one of
but
them.
there's nothing to them. I've caught a lot of those trout fishing.
Yeah.
And they're just it's just try and get the hook out and throw them back, and you wanna keep your hand and keep them slicked back,
Right.
and, there's just I don't think some people understand when you go to, like, Montauk, all the fish that you can catch, and especially when you go we went to Westover Farms one day, of course, it's a pay-to-fish place. Buddy of mine won the Super Bowl pool. He won like 4 out of the 7 pool slots. And he's like, "I wanna go here." And I'm like, "Alright, I'll go."
All right.
I'm not gonna turn down a free trip, you know what I mean? And, we caught the hell out of fish. We caught chain pickerel too.
Hmm.
And it was a neat difference, and they're neat looking, they're great looking. It's a fun fish to catch. But we're getting close to the end of the time here. We got probably 10 minutes, 20 minutes left. Um, talk about some of your flies that you like to tie and you like to fish.
Um, I like tying Clouser minnows a lot. Um, they're fun to tie. They're fairly easy, um, and they're great for bass fishing. I mean, I yellow is probably one of my favorite colors for bass. Also, crawfish patterns for bass. For trout, it's usually Euro nymphs and stuff like that. So flashy Euro nymphs, the rainbow warrior, um, uh, caddis larva imitations, and small midges, like little blood midges. Um, love fishing those.
The Rainbow Warrior, the Rainbow Warrior's a neat fly to tie. Um, as we were talking before, that was the beginner fly box for Dooley's,
Yeah, I think you had it out there.
and that's the first time I tied a size. They were in size 16,
Okay.
and I said I can't tie a size 16.
Yeah, that's the small.
So he sent me, yeah, he sent me a size 14, and I like those a lot. They just look like something trout will eat. What size do you like them in?
I usually, when I fish them in 14, 14 or 16. Um, Usually I don't go bigger than 14 though.
Yeah. Well, I've got to get my new glasses because Ben Tutt from Stupid Simple has been harassing me that I need to start tying 14s. And then, well, I'm tying 14s. I need to start tying 16s. And then he wants me to tie size 18s. And I'm like, I'm nearly 50.
Yeah, the smallest I've
I think
tied was
I've,
18. I don't go too much
yeah.
smaller.
Have you ever seen those pictures of those guys that have like 3 flies on a nickel?
Yeah, they're like size 28 or something. Yeah, I've never gone that small. I'd drop all my hooks
How
and
do
lose
you
them.
see to how do you see to do that?
I don't know. That's a small hook. I don't even know my vise would hold it. 28. I'm sure it would hold it, but it just looks so small in that thing.
What kind of ice do you use?
I use a Renzetti. Uh, I tie on the Presentation 2000.
See, I've got a Griffin Odyssey spider vise,
Okay.
and I like it a lot. I'm wanting to upgrade to the Mongoose. Um, I have no idea why, but I want to.
Yeah. That's fun. It's new.
Um, yeah. We're gonna have a guy from Norvice on the podcast, and I was like, "Hey, you know,
There
hook a brother up." You know what I mean?
you go.
Because we're not doing this for free. You know what I mean? We've got sponsors on the show. We've got great sponsors on the show, and a lot of guys that come on the show will toss us a little something, something. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
sure.
And the guy's like, "No," he's like, "Norvice, it doesn't need the advertisement." And I'm like, "Why am I bringing you on the show?"
Hey, at least you tried.
Yeah, I tried. I tried really hard. But I think, and this is something that I'm not sure if I can share or not, but I'm going to share it. And Nick Dooley at Dooley's Fly Shop say 15% with promo code Kayak may be doing a Vice trade in.
Really?
He and I talked about the other day. He might start thinking about doing a Vice trade in where
Hmm.
it's like going to a gun store and trading your rifle. You're not gonna make any money off of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if you want to upgrade, it's not like you've got to sit there and sell it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. I bet that would be popular.
Yeah. I think it will, and he and I have even talked about it a little bit. But I think some of these things, some of these guys, we get into it and we buy, and the Griffin Spider Vice isn't like it's a bad vice. Urine Zeddy's not a bad vice, but when you get into it, you want something a little bit more. You know?
Yeah, actually, believe it or not, I actually just bought the Renzetti in December. And before that, I was tying on a $20 Cabela's vise. So
Yeah.
so up until
Yeah.
just this recent December, I was tying on a simple $20 vise, and that was all I had just up until a couple months ago. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But even if you got $10 off when you're trading a vice, you'd have traded it in. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Instead of sitting it to the side.
yep,
You know, I mean, if he even if he can only sell it for $12, that's $2 profit.
yeah.
You
Oh
know,
no, I'll probably never get rid of it just because it was my first vise. It's just sitting on my.
my
It's actually
first
sitting up
vice,
there. You can probably see it right
huh,
there.
my first vice. Yep, I can see it. My first vice is in pieces because I broke it.
Yeah, yeah. I thought I was gonna break this a couple times, but it never actually broke.
Uh, It was about 25 years ago. I took a, I guess it was 20. No, I lived here in this house, so it was. I guess it was only 15 years ago, 17 years ago. I took my first fly tying class, and all they did were trout flies, and I'm like, "To hell with this." And I tied for quite a while trying to tie them, and I'd tie like woolly boogers on like a size, I think like a size 6, and catch bass on them.
Yeah.
And because all they taught us was they taught us all just trout flies, and I couldn't tie those. I couldn't tie an egg pattern to save my life. And then I got out of it for a little while, and I got back into it with bass flies, and I'm like, "We could tie these on a one-aught?"
I can see that.
Yeah. I got all kinds of stuff to tie on that. It was amazing, and I started tying SBS, pig jigs. I mean, just giant flies, and Dooley and I are actually talking about having one of my flies as, his next box.
Okay, cool. Which fly is this?
We're gonna use my pig
Oh,
jig.
okay.
Um, it's a, crawfish imitator,
Okay.
and it's like, man, this is a great bass fly. It's gonna be the warm water box because nobody's gonna take any of my trout
Yeah.
flies. But you ought to ask him about that, and, seriously, you ought to have some of your flies for that because we do videos here on the, Kayak Flyer YouTube channel, and we do some of the stuff for him, but tying those big flies, and did you hear about the cancel culture coming after, Kelly Gallup with the sex dungeon?
Yeah, I did actually see some. I seen that on Facebook somewhere the other day. Yeah, it never ends. It's always something.
But the quickest way to get kicked off YouTube, which I'm not gonna say it, but it's Kelly Garner's, WT
Yeah,
fly,
yeah,
or not Garner's WT fly.
right,
Yeah, there has been so much stuff taken down because of that one, and it's just trash that he picked up off his table and built,
right.
you
Yep.
know? That's the name of it. It's waste when you tie all these other flies. And I you walk a fine line between the old men in fly fishing and the young guys who are fun.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah. You got your
You
purists.
know,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you've got a sex dungeon and you've got an Adams fly.
Right. It's night and day.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you get Kelly Gallup that's throwing out these wild names. You've got Dally, you've got Stephen Wise, you've got these guys throwing out all these wild names on these flies, and then all of a sudden somebody puts up a video and they're like banned for 30 days on Facebook.
Right. Yeah, no, it's bizarre. But I you gotta have fun with it though. I mean that's some people take it too seriously.
Yeah, and there are guys out there that they're making flies and they're catching fish, and nobody would have ever thought to throw something that chunky,
Yeah,
you know?
till you try it, and then
I mean,
yeah, I've caught fish on some weird things,
that's one
but,
thing.
you never know until you tie it to the end of your line and throw it out there, see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, I tie some big old chunky flies, and you need to throw it on an 8 weight if you're an amateur, you can throw it on a 4 weight if you're a pro,
Yeah,
you know? It all depends on how much wrist action you've got.
right.
And some of these guys, they're sitting there. I'm like, when I do my videos, and I know you do this too, but you're doing a lot of the smaller flies and stuff. But it's like throw this on a 8 weight, work your way down to throwing it on a 4, and have a really good time. Because something about fly fishing, you can catch us. And I don't know about you. I like to use a lightweight rod in the cooler seasons of the year, so I'm not stressing the fish, and just fight the hell out of them.
Yeah.
How are you on that?
Yeah, well, honestly, I have 1 rod right now, um, and I was actually borrowing a rod. When I first started a couple years ago, I was borrowing a rod for a while, so I had a 4 weight and a 6 weight for a little bit, but now I just have a 6 weight, but I'm in the middle of buying another. I'm thinking about buying a 3 weight for the smaller rivers.
Well, why don't you look up Bajuco Flats Flyco? Tell him you've been a guest on the show and see what kind of deal he can give you.
Okay, I can do that.
Bajuco Bajuco Flats Flyco, always made to order, exactly what you want and guaranteed. Bajuco Flats Flyco. Find him on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, I follow him on Instagram. I'll have to shout out to him.
He's a great guy. He put up today. He he put up a really nice 6 weight, and Ben Tut, Ben.
Yeah.
Ben put up, man, if I really want to buy one of these, I said, Ben, just use promo code hashtag full price because he doesn't offer a
Right, I
discount.
don't blame him.
Oh, Pablo is a great guy, but if you want a good fly rod, honestly, and he's building on TFO blanks. He's built on Epic blanks. He's built on Moonshine blanks. He's building fiberglass and regular TFOs. I think he's even building on Sage, but I'm not sure.
Okay, wow.
But man, he does, and he sells them at retail price.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't really beat that,
So you're
custom.
gonna go to Bass Pro if they're not on sale, or you can get a custom made fly
Right.
rod. So well, go ahead and plug all your stuff so people can follow you and see the things you do because they're so great.
Yeah, on Instagram, fly tying with Ludwig, Ludwig Outdoors. I did start a YouTube channel, but I post once in a while on there, but I got to find the time to make good videos. But that's Ludwig Outdoors on YouTube, and then Facebook, Ludwig Outdoors. So
Cool. Buddy, this has been great. We're going to get together. You and I and Adam are going to go fishing together.
I'm down.
Probably a couple other Yahoos. Yeah, we're going to go and we're going to do a campfire podcast. But this is the deal. I want you to know this is the deal. Are you ready for
Let's
this?
hear it.
We can only fish the other person's flies.
Okay, I can do that.
So whatever fly, we'll roll the dice and we'll just set it up, and one of us has to fish the other person's flies, and then we'll come back and we'll see who's the better fisherman and who had the better flies.
I'm down. We'll
All
set a
right.
date.
Yeah. And let me do this for you. Let me send you a cutthroat furrowed leader, and you need to send me your mailing address, and then you put on your Instagram a winner, and I will send a cutthroat furrowed leader for you to send out.
Okay,
How does that
I can do.
sound? So I'm going to send you one and send one for you to give
I can
away.
do that. Yeah, I was actually going to be doing a giveaway here soon, so perfect.
Yeah. Well, I'll send you a cutthroat furrowed leader. Guys, you always know we've got Cutthroat for Leaders is a great sponsor of ours. So if you've listened to the end of this show and you're excited about Ludwig, like and subscribe to his Instagram channel, and he's going to put up a free giveaway. You know what I mean? And he's going to send you a Cutthroat for a Leader. I'm going to send him 2, 3, enough to get him by. And he'll send out however many extras he has. And you guys, like and subscribe to the page. We really appreciate it. This has been amazing. I've really enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to this fishing Strangers Fly. I think we'll just call it the Strangers Fly.
Sounds good to me.
Is that doesn't sound too creepy, does it?
No, it could definitely be creepier. No, that works.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and do the Strangers Fly, and we'll get together, say maybe June.
Yeah, we could probably do something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get together and we'll go out and we'll do a live. It'll be a live on tape, as they say, and we'll get together. We can all go fishing, and we're all going to fish somebody else's fly. I'm bringing like 15-inch pike flies so that I win.
We're fishing for pike then, right?
That way, yeah, that way nobody catches a trout on a 15-inch pike fly.
I'll just bring some thread and I'll cut it in half and I'll just rig it up a little different.
Poor Adam's going to be in a whole lot of trouble. Guys, this is Kayak Flyer. I want to thank you guys for listening. Really enjoyed having Ludwig on here. Ludwig Outdoors. Find him on Instagram. He's got a wonderful Instagram. You're a beautiful fly tyer, man. I just got to say, I envy you
Well, appreciate
with
it.
your fly tying.
Appreciate that.
Your stuff is so gorgeous. We didn't even know we were less than 100 miles apart when we contacted one another. I thought he was like in Montana for these flies he was tying, and I'm sitting there looking at these beautiful trout flies online. I'm like,
No,
yeah, he's in Montana.
no.
And I'm like, what time zone are you in? He's like, I'm in St. Louis. And I'm like, dude.
Yeah, I'm just right here in the Midwest.
Yeah. Dude, and like I said, you are way too young to tie as beautiful as you do.
Well, appreciate it. I'm always learning though, so I'm constantly watching YouTube videos to learn. So
Well, you've got your phone number. You let me know. We'll hook you up with some fun stuff. Guys, this has been absolutely wonderful. We will talk to you all next week.